Welcome to the information session for potential applicants interested in the FY 2023 competition for the discretionary grant program that will fund a center on early childhood STEM. This competition falls under the Educational, Technology, Media, and Materials for Individuals with Disabilities, which is a discretionary grant program administered by the Office of Special Education Programs, or OSEP. This session will provide information about the notice inviting applications, or NIA, that was posted in the Federal Register on Wednesday, February 22nd. My name is Tracy Dixon. I'm serving as the competition manager for this program and happy to have this opportunity to highlight information about the competition. The assistance listing number for this competition is 84.327G. I would like to go over some caveats before we begin this webinar. First, the intent of this presentation is to provide guidance only. The information contained in this webinar provides a general summary of the information contained in the notice and the application package. Therefore, it is important that all prospective applicants read the entire notice, the entire application package, and any additional relevant information that is contained in the application package. In addition, applicants are encouraged to listen to a more general webinar entitled Applying for Office of Special Education Programs Discretionary Grants for an orientation to the overall application submission process. That webinar can be found at osepideas.org, the same location that houses the link to this recording. Please be aware of application timelines. The notice inviting applications was published in the Federal Register on February 22nd, 2023. The application deadline is April 24th, no later than 11:59 p.m. Eastern Standard Time or Washington, D.C. time. That is just before midnight, 11:59 minutes and 59 seconds on April 24th, 2023. Note again that this is Eastern Time. Applicants should determine the corresponding time in your time zone and must allow time for uploading by the system. I will discuss the implications of a late submission later in this session. In addition to the notice inviting applications, important information is found in the application package. The application package will soon be available on grants.gov. It contains the most comprehensive information on this competition and how to apply. In it, you will find a Dear Applicant letter from Larry Wexler, Director of OSEP's Division of Research to Practice. That letter contains important information about this competition and highlights application requirements. The package includes the notice inviting applications, and it also includes important information about the submission procedures using the grants.gov system. As you review the application package, take a close look at the purpose of this funding as described in the absolute priority and the application requirements. Be sure to note carefully the review process and the selection criteria that will be used to judge the quality of the applications. Finally, carefully review the general information provided in the application package, including the required forms and instructions for completing those forms. I encourage you to carefully read the entire application package, the entire thing, the whole thing, front to back, and reach out to me if you have questions. In this next section, I would like to share with you some program information. Specifically, I will go over the purpose of program funding for this priority and the absolute priority. I will also discuss applicant eligibility and funding levels for the proposed National Center. As outlined in IDEA Part D, the purpose of the Educational Technology, Media, and Materials Program is to promote the development, demonstration, and use of technology, support educational media activities designed to be of educational value in the classroom and for children with disabilities, provide support for captioning and video description that is appropriate for use in the classroom, and provide accessible educational materials to students with disabilities in a timely manner. Consistent with the purpose of the EdTech program, this grant program 327G will fund a project that addresses the absolute priorities specified in the notice inviting applications. That is, the purpose of the 327 grant program is to fund an early childhood STEM and the arts cooperative agreement to improve outcomes for young children with disabilities by expanding the knowledge base on STEM, increasing exposure of STEM for young children with disabilities, including those who are multilingual and racially, ethnically, and culturally diverse, build the capacity of professional development providers, increase the capacity of faculty to integrate STEM learning information into their program of study, help families integrate STEM into everyday routines and activities. Eligible applications include state educational agencies, local educational agencies, including public charter schools that are considered LEAs under state law, institutions of higher education, other public agencies, private nonprofit organizations, freely associated states and outlying areas, Indian tribes or tribal organizations, and for-profit organizations. For this competition, plans are to make one award in an amount not to exceed $1,450,000 for a single budget period of 12 months. This is $7,250,000 over 5 years. The total project period is up to 60 months or 5 years. In this section, I would like to share important competition information. Specifically, I will review information including expected project outcomes and activities, topics to address in the application narrative, and the selection criteria that will be used to evaluate applications, and application requirements and general requirements for applications submitted under this program. Once again, please note that this webinar provides a general summary of the information contained in the notice and in the application package. If you intend to submit an application, please make sure to read carefully the entire notice and the entire application package and review any additional relevant information. The proposed center has a total of 5 expected outcomes to be achieved. Specifically, the intended outcomes of this project include expanding the body of knowledge on implementing evidence-based practices for early STEM learning, increased capacity of faculty of institutions of higher education, including historically Black colleges and universities, tribally controlled colleges and universities, and other minority-serving institutions to integrate STEM principles and practices within programs of study. Additionally, outcomes should achieve increased capacity of early childhood PD providers in state and local early childhood systems to integrate STEM learning into professional development opportunities. Increased capacity of early childhood personnel to integrate STEM learning trajectories and inclusive, culturally, and linguistically informed STEM instructional methods and practices, and the increased capacity of families to integrate STEM learning opportunities into everyday routines. The notice lays out how the application narrative should be divided into 5 sections. These sections correspond to the selection criteria that are used to evaluate each application, including significance, quality of project services, adequacy of resources and quality of project personnel, and the quality of the management plan. I will go over each of them briefly and point out in general terms what the narrative should address in each section. Please read the entire notice carefully, since the information contained in the notice is much more than what is detailed. First, the applicant must demonstrate in the narrative section of the application under significance how the proposed project will address current and emerging needs for knowledge about STEM learning, knowledge about integrating STEM and art, and addressing the needs of faculty, including faculty at historically Black colleges and universities, tribally controlled colleges and universities, and other minorities serving institutions to integrate STEM principles and practices into programs of study. First, the applicant must demonstrate in the narrative section of the application under significance how the proposed project will address current and emerging needs for knowledge about STEM learning, faculty, emerging needs for PD providers, and the emerging needs for families. Last, applicant must describe how it will address the proposed project and how that will improve the potential for early STEM outcomes for young children with disabilities. Under quality of project services, the narrative should demonstrate how the applicant will ensure equal access and treatment for members of groups that have been traditionally underrepresented based on race, color, national origin, gender, age, or disability. Achieve its goals, objectives, and intended outcomes. Use a conceptual framework to develop project plans and activities, and use current research and make use of evidence-based practices. Under quality of project services, the narrative should demonstrate how the applicant will develop products and provide services that are of high quality and sufficient intensity and duration to achieve the intended outcomes. Within that, address how the project will expand the knowledge base on the integration of STEM and the arts, professional development supports and services, integrating STEM and the arts into program of study, and supporting families to implement STEM learning into everyday routines. Also, under quality of project services, the narrative should demonstrate how the applicant will describe its approach to providing universal, targeted, and intensive technical assistance, and the project must demonstrate how it will develop products and implement services that maximize efficiency, and demonstrate how the project will develop a dissemination plan. Quality of project evaluation. Under quality of project evaluation, applicants must articulate formative and summative evaluation questions, describe progress, fidelity of implementation, as well as project outcomes, describe strategies for analyzing data, provide a timeline for conducting the evaluation, and dedicate sufficient funds in each budget year to cover evaluation costs. In the adequacy of resources and quality of project personnel section, the narrative should demonstrate how the proposed project will encourage applications from employment from persons who are members of groups that have traditionally been underrepresented based on race, color, national origin, gender, age, or disability. Demonstrate the proposed key project personnel, consultants, and subcontractors have the qualifications and the experience to carry out the proposed activities, and demonstrate that adequate resources are available to carry out the proposed activities. In the quality of management plan section, the narrative should demonstrate how the proposed management plan will ensure that the project's intended outcomes will be achieved on time and within budget, describe the allocation of key personnel and any consultants and subcontractors to achieve the project's intended outcomes, ensure products and services provided are of high quality, relevant, and useful to recipients, and how the project will benefit from a diversity of perspectives, including those of educators, TA providers, researchers, policymakers, among others, including those who are multilingual and racially, ethnically, and culturally diverse. As part of the process of making funding recommendations, external reviewers will judge and score the quality of the application using selection criteria and corresponding points allocated to each section of the narrative. The application package contains information on the sub-criteria within each selection criterion, and applicants are strongly encouraged to read these carefully when preparing the application. The review process also includes materials pertaining to the application and general requirements specified in the NIA. In Appendix A, upload a personnel loading chart and timelines. And in the budget section, be sure to budget for attendance at several required meetings and conferences, such as a 1.5-day kickoff meeting in DC within 30 days after receipt of the award, an annual 2.5-day project conference held in DC, and other meetings as specified in the notice. Also include in the budget an annual set aside of 5% to support emerging needs that may be identified by OSEP and consistent with the project's purpose. We would like to see you engage doctoral scholars or postdoc fellows in your project, maintain a high-quality, accessible website, ensure that annual project process toward meeting project goals are posted on the project website, and assurances to assist OSEP with the transfer of pertinent resources and products and to maintain the continuity of services. In this next session, I will cover some general information related to submitting an application. Once again, please refer to the notice for additional information. Please note that applications must be submitted electronically in the grants.gov system. See grants.gov submission procedures and tips for applicants included in the application package. We strongly recommend that you do not wait until the last day to submit your application. Grants.gov will put a date, time stamp on your application and then process it after it is fully uploaded. The time it takes to upload an application will vary depending on several factors, including the size of the application, the speed of your internet connection, and the time that it takes grants.gov to process the application, which will vary. Further, if grants.gov rejects your application, you will need to resubmit successfully to grants.gov before the deadline of 11:59 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on April 24th, 2023. If there are reasons why an applicant cannot submit using grants.gov, the applicant must follow the information contained in the application package precisely. Please note that applications cannot be submitted by email and must be submitted prior to the deadline of April 24th, 11:59 p.m. That is just before midnight. Applications are uploaded and then submitted. It is a two-step process, so it takes longer than you will think. We strongly encourage applicants to submit all narratives and attachments in a PDF read-only, non-modifiable format. In order to make sure that the application is submitted on time and correctly, please register as early as possible in grants.gov and start the application process. Do not wait until you have the application ready to register. Grants.gov will create a workspace for applicants to submit the pieces of the application over time. If you are already registered in the system for award management, make sure your registration is current. Submit early, a day or more in advance if possible. Should there be any problems with the grants.gov system, submitting early will allow you time to correct the problem and resubmit before the deadline. Verify that the submission is okay. Grants.gov will send applicants a notification that the submission was on time and validated. So applicants should make sure that they receive that confirmation and not assume the submission was okay. Here are some additional tips for applying for this grant program. Pay attention to the maximum funding levels for the grant. Follow the recommended organization, page limits, spacing, and font sizes. PDF files make it easier for the system to put together different parts of the application, so we encourage you to submit non-modifiable PDF files. The grants.gov submission procedures and tips for applicants in the application package can be extremely helpful for submitting the application in grants.gov. Please ask if you have questions. Once received, all applications are screened to determine eligibility for competition. Those found eligible for review will be reviewed. Those ineligible will not be reviewed. Some common reasons that an applicant may be ruled ineligible may be because an application was submitted more than once and the application was validated more than once, so duplicate applications are received. In that case, the last application submitted will be considered and previous applications will be considered duplicates and therefore ineligible for review. There are two additional reasons why an application may not be eligible, and that includes all applications received after the published deadline will not be eligible for funding. Second, applications that do not address the priority will also not be eligible for funding. For example, an application proposing to build a school, purchase equipment for a classroom, establish an after-school program, or provide tutoring services for children with disabilities will not be eligible since that is not the purpose of this priority. Once again, the purpose of this priority is to establish and operate a national center for STEM for young children with disabilities. As I mentioned at the beginning, this webinar covers highlights of what's contained in the notice inviting applications and the application package. If you have additional questions, please contact me by email at tracy.dixon@ed.gov. Email is the preferred approach. You may also contact me by phone at 202-245-7844. Leave a voice message and I will return your call. Thank you for participating.